Yeah, don't forget the dot-com crash. That was a problem. My God, it's a crisis. Look at the market. They fell, collapsed down. $7 trillion on NASDAQ. Who was in charge of NASDAQ and running it? Could that have been a Madoff? Yeah, and who's all his buddies, and who was running the Fed, and who pumped all the money in to make that happen? That whole dot-com bubble? So it's a crisis, crisis, crisis. So there's the problem, okay? Bad investment, malinvestment, just like in banking. And then what was the reaction? People lost their savings, their retirements. They thought that a casino was a retirement account. Okay, they called that NASDAQ. Now you found out he was a crook bum. The guy who founded NASDAQ, Mr. Madoff. You should remember this, folks. Okay, so gee, we found criminals involved in that, right? Now it gets better. What's the solution? Sarbanes-Oxley. More, bigger control. Now, gee, since we had Sarbanes-Oxley and stuff, how did the next crash thing happen? We'll give it a little time. So do you remember Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac? That's right, Barney Frank's boyfriend's working for one of them, okay? And then all this banking crisis. Once again, crisis, crisis, crisis. We now have to take money from you. We have to take money from your children. I'm sorry, but we have to take money from your grandchildren. Because those who caused the problem, Wall Street bankers, okay, are now the ones who are what? Providing the solution. What are they doing? They're giving them the, quote, bailout money. Do you see that those who caused it are benefiting from it? And then what are you getting? More government control. Now you have what? You have fascism, socialism. When the government runs the banking, when the government runs companies like General Motors, okay, we're taking over. Why? Because you took our money. Anything we subsidize, we shall control. So think about it. Crisis, 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 crisis. You think I'm kidding? This is how they do it to you. They do this constantly. In Massachusetts, most recently, I'd mentioned the swine flu, but in Massachusetts, we passed like a pandemic law in the Senate in Massachusetts, where now we can go kick you out of your house, even if you're sick and not feeling well. We can then take any of your stuff, I don't care what it is, we can take it. We can decontaminate your house, including destroying it. All based on crisis, crisis, crisis. In that case, false, phony crisis. Even when it was found out interesting that the gentleman who, the doctor, Len Horowitz, who determined 2 days after the anthrax attack that, hey, this stuff can only be made in a bioweapons lab, it's too fancy. When he's come out and he said, well, hey, it's the CDC, an Anglo-British outfit, okay, and the WHO who have control, and they're the only ones who take avian flu and mix it with swine flu and the regular H1N1. Yet the same guy who was able to identify and say, you know what, that anthrax, it's not what they're selling you in that media hype. He identifies the new H1N1, we were calling swine flu for a week or two, and he says, hey folks, it's not what they're telling you. There's only so many ways you can recombinants, okay, of DNA and RNA to create these viruses to meld together. It's not natural for viruses around, let alone not during flu season. But once again, you were told crisis, crisis, pandemic, crisis, put on the mask every night on your television. Did you understand that hype? Are you now understanding that this is not the first time? So we'll get right over with, gosh, for you elders out there, like myself, some gray hair, you probably remember in the 60s and into the 70s, we had a global cooling crisis. We were afraid there will be a new ice age. Don't believe me. Go look up at Time and Newsweek and U.S. News World Report. These are the people that were helping push the hype, okay? And it was on the news, oh my God, the Earth's cooling. So now you've got Al Gore pushing the global warming stuff with the IPCC. I just watched a guy at Brandeis, okay, get an honorary doctorate or whatever, and he's like this IPCC guy. And the thing I found interesting is, when there's thousands of scientists who say that's a hoax, okay, and that carbon dioxide is not only good, oh my gosh, do you have any plants in your home? What is it that they need besides sunlight to do photosynthesis? To produce what? Hydrocarbon forms. We burn wood, we eat food, hydrocarbon, folks. But they're teaching you through the hype and the crisis of global warming that it's bad. Think about it. These are the same people that, once again, with 9/11, okay, hyped you into the Patriot Act. But let's go back for global warming for a second. Isn't it funny that it's like Madoff and all those Wall Street guys who set up on the Chicago Commodities Exchange a way to trade carbon credits? Now, you're probably not in power generation. I'm involved in power generation sometimes. And you know what? As companies make electricity, they can trade and exchange their carbon credits. Now, why is Gore, running the company or making money off the company that did that and also pushing this global warming hype? Now, we know it snowed in Baghdad, first time in 100 years. We know it snowed in Jerusalem, for you people who keep in touch with Jerusalem, and, first time in like 75 or 100 years. This is not global warming we're seeing, okay? And basing it on carbon dioxide, what a crock. I'm in combustion for a living, okay? And all of you, when you exhale carbon dioxide. And do you realize they're putting in a global tax? A global tax. And they'll have these credits that you can buy at Gore's Exchange out on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Do you see the problem, reaction, solution? And this false problem of global warming, by the way, was dreamed up by the Club of Rome over 50 years ago, because you need an enemy. Just like you need Al-Qaeda, you have to have an enemy. Otherwise, why do you need a government? Because they're protecting you against who? Al-Qaeda, who worked for the CIA for years and still does today. Osama bin Laden worked for the CIA, but you need an enemy. And the enemy, think about, as vague as can be, global warming. That makes all you humans enemies. Yeah, do you use electricity? You're the enemy. Did you leave your lights on? You're the enemy. Did you exhale? What do you know about CO2? If CO2 is so bad, for my viewers out there who want to embrace global warming and the BS of being carbon dioxide based, did you start drinking your Coca-Cola? Because don't they use carbon dioxide as the little bubbly fizzies? The bubbly fizzies. Does this mean all carbonated drinks? I mean, how can you... I'm sorry. You people have to start waking up and asking questions, okay? But once again, crisis, this global warming crisis, okay? When hundreds and thousands of scientists, okay, say, you know what? My name was used on that IPCC report. I want it taken off. I had to go to court to get my name off that report because I didn't say they could use my name. That these same lying people are using the lying media to hype up a false crisis. Once again, remember, this is not the first energy crisis. This is not the first medical crisis. This is not the first, terrorism crisis. So going on the terrorism thing, I always like to give you a little bit of 9/11 Zen. I've got my special shirt for you. That's right. There's a question up on the shirt. Can you read the question? Do you understand the question? Do you understand what Building 7 was? So I've got a little bit for you. Here's a little clip. Okay, what I'm going to show you, Building 7 and some other stuff. Now remember, when you see building collapses, I'm going to show you the difference between a building collapse, okay, and then a building that was demolished. So I hope you enjoy this. This may be a learning experience for you.